Have a nice kind of a stressful evening together. So just find some props. If you're just getting in, just make sure you have a couple of blankets or towels with you for a pose that we're going to do somewhat early in the class. Some water to sip, a yoga strap if you have one. If you don't have one, a tie or a belt, a man's tie, that is, a belt could work. Maybe a couple of blocks and a blanket to cover you, something to put under your head when you're on the mat. And with that being said, come to lying down. I'm going to remain seated, so you don't need me to demonstrate lying down, and you probably don't need me to demonstrate much of anything because you probably will be familiar. So as you come to lying down, you could do a few things while you're there. One is to be comfortable, so set up any props underneath you to make it super comfortable for you. And by the way, if it's not super comfortable for you to lie down, feel free to sit up, because the idea here is to be cozy and in a calm place where you can kind of draw your awareness inside. So if lying down is not suiting you at the moment, then by all means, just come to a seated position. Close your eyes and just let your body kind of sink into itself. So one theme, if you could call it that I was touching on in a number of classes in the past week was wonderfulness. And it's wonderful when something is wonderful. Like if we see a movie, I'm like, that was beyond great. That was wonderful. What a wonderful meal that was. Oh, how wonderful the weather is. But tonight I invite you to explore the wonderfulness of yourself. So corny though it may sound, we are these wonderful, functioning, unique human beings on this planet Earth. So maybe as you're resting here at the start of your practice and you're settling in, you can bring some of that awareness to your amazing self and see how that feels. Does it feel uncomfortable to think of yourself as wonderful and amazing? Bring your awareness to your breath without changing a thing. Just notice this wonderful, life-providing, giving, and sustaining force of breath and the activity of breath, which in its wisdom, the body does that on its own, and we do not have to remind our body to breathe. So that's pretty wonderful. So notice the wonderful breath. And even if your nose is stuffy or there's some irritation in the pathway of your breath, know that the breath is still coming in and coming out. So enjoy that and be present with that. And then scan your body. And if there's any place that's a little sensitive, you're going to remember to stay very present with what's going on in your body. So as you move throughout your practice, even though we're doing gentle movements, even gentle movements and poses can irritate and injury. So don't go to your end range of motion. And if you do notice a stiffness or an irritation, that doesn't detract from your wonderfulness. That just makes you human. Bring your awareness to your head. Let the head be heavy onto the mat. Notice if your head is tilted, if you tend to jut your chin up, and just have your head comfortable, but see if you can find that your neck is long in the back and not shortchanged by a chin tipping up. The neck feels long on both sides. Notice if it feels even, or if it feels that you're tipping your head to one side. You might have a habitual position, so just notice that. And then to explore your neck with movement, take a few slow turns of the head from side to side. Don't go to your end range, just take the head back and forth, pause in the middle, and just notice when you, for example, turn your head to one side, is there any pain in that side, or the opposite side? If there is pain, then you're done assessing that, so you're not going to turn as much to that side. Notice if there's any pulling, or just like when you turn your head, let's say to your left, your right shoulder wants to come along. So notice that as well, and then bring your head back to center. If you're lying with your legs straight, that's fine. If you've been there for a while and now your low back is starting to complain, bend your knees, place your feet on the floor. But if you can maintain just lying flat on your mat, that's good too. Bring your awareness to your back. Notice how your back feels today. We're going to be doing a supported back bend. So notice if your back feels calm. What jumps out at you? Do you notice that all the weight is on one side of your back? Do you notice that your shoulder blades are really digging into the floor? Do you notice that your upper back is heavy to the floor, but your mid back is sailing up in the air? And notice your low back curve as well. Does it feel particularly voluminous today, or does it feel like your low back curve? Take a moment to notice your arms and legs, your hands and your feet, and just notice anything that's going on there. And take another breath or two here. And then when you're ready, do bend your knees, place your feet on the floor, and ease over to your side. We are going to do things on the mat, but we're going to come back to that in a moment. So ease your way over to the side, be really, really slow. Once you're lying on your side, the top arm, the top hand presses down, that starts to lift you up, and then the bottom hand, come all the way up, and just come to any comfortable seated position. You can sit cross-legged like I'm doing. You can sit with your legs out in front of you. You may have an asymmetrical position that you need to do. I have some students with hip injuries, so they end up having one leg straight and one leg is kind of tucked in like this. So do whatever feels right and sit tall. And notice if sitting tall takes a little more work than you would like to have. You want to see if you can get your shoulders roughly in line with your hips and your earlobes roughly in line with your shoulders. So we're not leaning forward like we're doing something computery or phone-y. Sitting nice and tall. Close your eyes if you like. Sometimes we can get a better sense of our body placement with our eyes closed rather than with our eyes open and even looking at our own reflection. Rest your hands on your legs. Notice if you automatically put the palms down and grip your legs. See if you can keep your hands soft, your shoulders relaxed. Think of your sitting bones as anchors. So we want our hips firmly planted on the floor, even if possible from side to side. And if you feel you'd like padding underneath your bottom, take a blanket or towel or several blankets or towels and put that under your bottom. And that's particularly helpful if you tend to lean forward and can't get your shoulders back. It will tilt your pelvis in a more efficient way, and you might be able to have a little more length and ease in your seat. Now, pick up your right hand and place the back of your hand to your forehead. Very woe is me. Inhale, lengthen your spine. And as you exhale, initiate a turn from your collarbones. So we're taking a really small twist of the collarbones of the shoulder girdle over to your right. Come back to center as you inhale. Go nice and slow. Exhale over to that side again. Don't pull or press your arm back further. Come forward again as you inhale. And one more time, exhale into a small, very, very top of your upper body twist, leading with your shoulders. Notice where you feel spaciousness here. Do you feel spaciousness in the front of your chest, across your upper back? Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, on an inhale, come forward, release the arm, roll your wrists out a little bit before we do the second side, or maybe just flutter your fingers around. Do some movement that feels good for your hands. And then, oh, woe is me, back of your left hand to your forehead. Sit nice and tall. Inhale, lift your rib cage away from your hips. And as you exhale, a very slow, small twist over now to your left side. Inhale back to center. And exhale into this small upper body twist, way, way upper body. Back to center you go. And then exhale, lucky number 3. Pause here. If you feel like you're pulling yourself or pushing yourself into it, come out of it a little bit. Stay here in this twist, nice and tall. Make sure you're not leaning to either side. Try and find equilibrium on your right and your left sides. And then on your next inhale, unwind, come forward. Release your hand. Now, if you were sitting cross-legged all this time, just notice which leg was on top or forward. Remember that. But then in the meantime, just stretch your legs out and just kind of flop them around a little bit, wiggle your toes if that feels good. And then if it feels okay, come back to your however you were sitting before. And if you were sitting cross-legged, you're going to remember what leg you had in front, and you're going to put the other arm on front. in the front of you. Take your arms out into an A-frame, reaching long. So we're not trying to stretch our arms so much. But this is a little bit more about stretching the connective tissue in our arms, but you might feel a muscle stretch as well. So as long as whatever you feel is good, you're good. Take your fingertips lightly to the floor. Again, make sure your neck is long, your sitting bones even. Take a gentle breath here, a natural breath in and out. Good. And then from here, pick up your right arm. We're going to do a very small side bend. Inhale a breath here, and as you exhale, kind of side bow your spine a little over to your left. So you're opening up that right side here, but you're not doing it at the expense of this side. We're not trying to draw this armpit down to the hip. We want to keep length on both sides. Your gaze might be more comfortable looking down. Explore turning your head down, forward, up. Drop. Make sure your right sitting bone is anchored. If it feels like it's lifting up a little bit, imagine you could pour water down through the right side of your body and anchor that hip down a little bit. Good. Relax your bottom shoulder. I feel mine a little hiked here. And then when you're ready, inhale, firm that right sitting bone down, bring the arm up, hands together, draw them to the heart center. Fan your arms out wide again, anchor that right hand down. Pick up your left hand up by your ear. Inhale, find the length of your spine. As you exhale, just tip that length a little bit over to your right, just to get a little stretch. And it might not even feel like a stretch, just might feel like a lengthening of the top side of you here, the left side. So you want to have weight on your sitting bones. If your left sitting bone is getting airborne, you want to bring that right down. Find a comfortable position for your head. If your top arm wants to just kind of hang out and curve and drip over your head, that's certainly fine. Take 1 or 2 more breaths here. Again, lengthening without trying not to curve the spine a lot here. And then as you inhale, shift your weight back over into that left sitting bone. Anchor that while you come up. Join your hands together. Slide your hands down to the heart center. Good. Now stretch your legs out once again, and just to not be sitting quite so much, we're going to come to hands and knees for some small movements there. So if your knees are tender, you may want to take some soft blanket or towel underneath your knees, and you're going to stretch out into a tabletop position with your wrist creases roughly in line with your shoulders, knees inner hip distance apart. Look back and make sure you don't see your toes. So we don't want to have our knees parallel, but our feet are touching each other here. We're going to do a modified version of cat-cow. Inhale, take a small back bend from crown to tail. And as you exhale, draw your belly in and up and slide your hips a fraction back to your heels and come up on your fingertips. So we're not fully rounding the spine here. We're lengthening the spine a little different way. As you inhale, come forward into a back bend. As you exhale, slide your hips back. They don't have to go back far. Lift your fingertips up. Creep your fingertips up if you want a little more length. And follow this movement in your own breath pattern. So you might be inhaling when I'm exhaling. And just notice, you can notice a few things, but one thing you might notice is the length and width of your back when you draw back into the forward bend. In fact, the next time your hips come to your heels, press your toenails down. Don't try and get your hips as far as they go down. So keep a little lift in your bum. Give a little tuck of your pelvis to broaden and lengthen your low back. And relax your head long. You might feel a little shaky here in the bum. Holding your hips up can be a little, I wouldn't say challenging, but you might feel a little warmth in your hips or your bum. But mostly notice the length of your spine, the length of your right side, the length of your left side. That wonderful long body you have, even if you're not very tall, there's a lot of length and spaciousness there. And then as you inhale, come up and just counter that forward bend variation with a small back bend from crown to tail, and pause here in the back bend and make sure that this small back bend is in fact small and your whole spine is involved. So many of us are flexible and we can send up our tail a whole lot, but then most of the back bend is going to be sitting in the lumbar spine, and we want it everywhere. We all want to articulate in the upper spine where we don't have as much movement. Now from here, as you exhale, this time you can come fully back to child's pose if child's pose is comfortable for you. I know that doesn't work for everyone's knees today. I don't know if any of you, this isn't comfortable. So you can come to a seated position. You can come to child's pose. You could take a yoga block or a pillow, place it under your head if you like. Take your knees wide and just let yourself soften like a big pile of mush. Get very soft here or in any rest pose that you're in. And also you may want to take a cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, in that variation of cat-cow, we don't get some of the stretching in the upper back that we do get in the traditional cat-cow. So here in child's pose, don't round your back like a kitty cat, a Halloween cat, but think about your shoulder blades kind of wrapping away from the spine a little toward your side ribs. So that's one thing that can help you feel more spacious in the upper back, and it might lift your upper back up a little bit. And then whatever space you sense in your upper back, bring your awareness of your breath into that space. And with your inhale, invite more spaciousness into your back. Breathe into your back lungs. When you're ready, release back into tabletop position. So we were deeply folded in our knees. So let's open up the backs of our legs. Tuck the toes of your right foot deeply under, keeping your arms firm. Send your right leg back. Keep the toes tucked. Crown of the head is shining forward. Heel is pressing back. Opening up the back of the leg and the knee. Think about the inner right thigh kind of lifted up, because sometimes the leg can sag inward slightly. And then place that right knee down, tuck the toes of the left foot under, send that left leg back. Toes deeply tucked, leg long, leg vibrant, back of the knee getting a little space. Make sure you're not stretching so much that you are hyperextending your knee. But we just want to, when we do the cat-cow or a lot of things on our hands and knees, it can get really tight in the knee from that closing down of the back of the knee. And let's do that one more time. Stretch the right leg out. Now, if you are interested in adding a balance pose into your mix here, with your right leg stretched out and the toes tucked, you can add your left arm. And the work here is to stay even. It's also not to feel like you're pouring tons of weight on the wrist of the arm that's still down. So what do you want to do? You want to reach strongly through the straight leg heel. You want to keep your hips buoyant, keep the belly lifted in. Press your toenails down of your left foot, the top of the foot presses down, and then bring that all down. And before we do the second side, you may want to sit back on your bottom or stand on your knees, roll your wrists around a little bit, make some movements on your wrists, and then come back and second side. So stretching out the left leg, get a good tuck without hyperextending the knees. Keep that. You can stay right here if you want to add the balance challenge. Lift another table leg up, so to speak, and reach your right arm forward, thumb side up, arm roughly in line with your ear, and see if you can get a sense that you're even from right to left. If you're not sure, you could take that free hand and bring it to the back of your hips, and you'll feel if one side is sloping down. I was sloping a little bit, and you can square off your hips with the feedback from your hand on your low back and on the back of your hips. And then when you're ready, bring that down. Good. Now come to sitting again. And from here, we're going to toss in a nice little restorative back bend. So for this, you need some blankets, and towels would do just as well. So either yoga blankets or towels will work. You need at least two. So if you weren't here from the start of class and you have to go get those tools, go get those tools. So we want to end up with one blanket or towel in a long, narrow rectangle that is narrower than our body. Now, this is an old beach towel, and I'm going to just open it a little bit. So you just to show you where it ended up. It's not even an even towel. I can't even get the edges even. So you fold the blanket on the long side again and again, and then you're going to have something that looks like this. A bath towel works, beach towel works, yoga blanket, of course, works. Just make sure that when you place it down on your mat, place it down on the mat so there's still room about, I don't know, 8 inches or so on top of it. This is going to be the end where the head goes, just so you know. And make sure it's pretty even. So if it's very lumpy and you want to be the princess and the pea, you can soften that out a little bit. Now, if you have a strong yoga practice and you do a lot of back bends, as you can see, this towel is not very thick. So you could add another one on top of it, or just fold up another blanket. If you're using towels, my bath towels aren't really thick enough to use, and my beach towels, which these are never the same thickness, but you might want to just get another rectangle blanket and have it on the side, and then add that in if you feel once you get into the pose, there's not enough height. So you have that blanket there. Now you're going to take another blanket again, or towel, and create a rectangle with it, a pretty big rectangle, and then fold the short ends together, place that at the top so you have a capital letter T with these 2 blankets. A few other optional things, if you have a bolster or a few more blankets and you want to have it, this is going to be your leg end here. So you can roll up a towel or a blanket. You could also do this pose. The way I'm going to demonstrate it is just with the knees bent. So you're going to be sitting on the mat with your tushy can we say tushy? Your tushy in front of the blanket, so that when you're lying down, your hips are going to be a fraction lower than your torso. And just know that when you get into the pose, and I'll get you in there in a minute, if you find that your low back curve does not feel happy with this situation, you might need to sit a little higher, or if you right away brought 2 blankets in, you may only want to make it 1. So sit with your bottom either on the mat, or if you know that you need a little, if you've done this before and you know what you need, place a blanket under your bottom and then lengthen down. Now, because I'm pretty short, and just for reference, I'm 5'2". So my head doesn't even reach this blanket up here. My head and my whole back, my low back, and even the top rim of my hips are all on this towel. If, however, so if you're taller, you're going to need this blanket. But if you're not taller, if you're also kind of short like I am, but you just like to have your head higher, you could stick it in like that. Okie doke. Then, as I said, you could stay with the bent knees. So, we're not getting 200 props into the situation here. Rest your knees together. Or if you like, you can see how it feels to take a couch cushion or a bed pillow, place it underneath your knees. See how that affects your experience. Take the arms down by your side. And what we're looking for here is a little opening in the chest. It's a very subtle back bend. The thinner the blanket or towel underneath you, the less of a back bend you're going to have. And I just have a very thin layer here. But once you're in the pose, you want to feel that your chest is a little vibrant, and it's like you're being scooped up a little bit by the prop underneath you. And then because the prop is narrower than you are, it also creates from the apex, the highest point of your chest, like a sloping down, cascading over the fronts of your shoulders. So a big part of a back bend is opening this upper chest, which is also an area that tends to be closed down by both daily activities and also injury, tiredness, depression. So we want to create a really open situation in the upper chest to really celebrate that wonderfulness. So most of you don't have your cameras on, so I can't give you any feedback. So if I'm a little repetitive, that's just because I want to make sure you're getting the benefit of the pose and nothing is irritating you. So nothing should be irritating you in the pose. Your mind might be irritated because maybe you're like, what is this pose? I don't know if I like this. I don't want to do this. But your body should feel fine. You want your low back curve to feel like its normal self. We're not trying to create a bigger arch there. We're trying to articulate a little bit in the upper chest. Take a few more breaths here. Invite your body to surrender down to the softness, the cushioning, and the fluffiness of your props, while at the same time, even though the body is compressing these props down, the height of the props is going to lift you up a little bit, as I explained before. So want to visit that here. So stay in the position if it's comfortable for you. And just notice, again, your low back, make sure it's comfortable. Notice your belly, make sure it's just literally hanging out. It could be hanging out here, nice and soft. And then bring your awareness up to your upper chest. You can also take a hand and place it on your upper chest to see if you can feel that little subtle but joyful and, dare I say, wonderful lift in the chest. If you have shoulder injuries and having the shoulders dropping down a little bit is an irritant, that's a drag, by the way, if you have a shoulder injury, but let me just show you, especially since this is recorded, so someone might do it and say, you know, this hurts my shoulders. If you're having your shoulders come down, you can take a blanket or something and place it under the irritated shoulder. So it won't open the chest as much, but it will make your injured shoulder a lot happier. So just one or two more moments here in the pose. Make sure again that you're comfortable. You can always come out sooner, roll over to the side and out of the pose if you need to. But just to explore just a little bit here, bring your awareness to that upper part of your chest. So high, up toward the collarbones, high on the sternum. You could rest a hand there if you like. And without force, bring your awareness a little more deeply into your breath. And as you inhale, you can even slow the breath down. And notice if you feel any lift of the chest upward into your hand. Very subtle. So we're not trying to push the hand in. Just notice what you feel from the inside of you. And as you exhale, notice if you almost feel like the skin of your chest is pulling away from your hand a little bit. You can keep your hand there if you like, and take a few more breaths, just diving your awareness into your wonderful lungs, expanding and condensing. Without force, letting the shape that your body is in draw your attention to the opening and also create a little bit more opening in the chest. And lastly, bring your awareness to your upper side ribs. So really close up into the armpit area. You can bring your hands there if it's comfortable. It's not always a comfortable place to bring your hands. Make sure your arms are not smushed in toward your side body. Make sure they're out on an angle. And take a breath into the right and left sides of you. Bring your awareness there and notice as you inhale, if you feel a slight broadening of your rib cage, like your sides are kind of just not pushing into the hands, but you feel a little more contact into your hands on inhale. And as you exhale, this condensing, receding kind of action will follow. And do that one more time if you like, with your awareness on your breath. Bring your awareness into the sides of you, particularly your upper sides. Inhale, feel what you feel. And as you exhale and the breath let goes, notice what you feel there. Take a couple more breaths here, maybe one or two breaths more. And know that this is something you could do on your own. I tend to use this, it's pretty simple T shape. When you're ready to release, make sure your knees are bent fully. So if you slung your legs over a prop, bend them so that the feet are down on the mat. So we want to be nice and stable here. And then when you're ready, just shift your hips to one side, roll over to the other side. Take one of your pillows or blankets and tuck it under your bottom ear. Because whenever we're lying on our side, we always smush that top of the shoulder there, even if we're narrow in the shoulder. So just rest on your back for a moment. On your bottom side, and then reach back behind you. See if you can grab that vertical. I'm laughing because my towel got so smushed. It's so much thinner than when I started. And if you like, you can sling that over your bottom leg and ankle, and that creates a nice cushioning between the top and bottom thigh. You don't want your ankle bones digging into each other. And while you're lying on your side here, bring your awareness to your back again. And if you like, just tuck your awareness in the back as you breathe. Notice how wonderfully broad your back is. Notice the richness of your breath. If your breath had a flavor, it would be yummy and wonderful. And then when you're ready, just to check in to see if we made any changes in our body, roll back onto your back with the only prop. I'm not going to do it myself. Roll back onto your back with only whatever support you need under your head. And if your legs were straight out in the beginning of class, if that felt comfortable, send your legs straight out. If you needed to have your knees bent right from the start, bend your knees and just notice what you feel. Notice if your upper back feels different. It might feel a little more connected to the mat here. It's possible. So notice your upper back, your mid back, and also just take a few small, slow turns of the head and just notice if the little back bend, we did active back bending when we were in table, and just notice if the addition of a supported back bend made the neck turns a little easier. That could just come if we opened the back a little bit and opened in the collarbones. So some of that neck tightness could be coming from someplace else. And then after you've explored that, when you're ready, come to a comfortable seated position. Again, you can take your blankets or towels, place them underneath your bottom. If you like, take any position you like, cross-legged or otherwise. Take your time to get there. And when you get there, sit nice and tall and comfortably, resting your hands on your thighs. So in the beginning of class, we did a seated twist and we had the back of our hands on our forehead. Here, maybe we've created a little opening. See if you can comfortably get your hands, both hands behind your head, interlacing the back curve of your skull in your hands. Now, if you do this and you feel like that's pushing your head forward or causing any strain in your neck, you can place both hands on your forehead, palm to palm, like that. That will work. So either your hands are going to be resting gently on the forehead, back of the hands to the forehead, or you could slide them behind you. Inhale a breath here, find the length in your spine. And as you exhale from your right shoulder blade and armpit area, take a twist there. And then inhale back to center. And then one more time, we're going to hold it on this one. Exhale, spin the top third of your torso over to the right. So your head is just resting in your hands and the head is not initiating the turn. Make sure you're even on your sitting bones. And if you like, release you're twisting to your right. So release your left hand, the arm that's in front of you, and just take it literally in front of you and just move that arm around a little bit. Just make sure you don't turn to look at it or come out of the twist. You could wash windows a little bit with your hand and then replace that hand back either behind your head or on your forehead. Inhale, lengthen the crown of the head up to the sky and come back to center. Good. Release your arms. Take teeny tiny shoulder rolls, not the huge ones up to the ears, teeny, itty bitty. And then again, either take your hands palm to palm in front of you or palm to palm in back of you, or interlace your hands. If you're sitting cross-legged, you might want to just put the other leg in front just to change things up. Inhale a breath here. As you exhale, take a small twist over now to your left. Inhale, come out of the twist, pause, take a breath here, change your hand position if you like, one more time. Inhale into the length, exhale, take a small twist over toward your left side. Make sure you're not straining or pulling yourself into the twist. It should feel really sustainable, maybe even a little wonderful. And if you like, as you did on the first side, you can release your front arm and just take it in front, not in front of where your chest is, because that's twisting. Take it out in your well, you know what I mean. I don't know what I mean. And you can wash your windows here a little bit, or just roll your arm around just to get some fluidity and movement in the arm, in the shoulder blade. Just play around with some interpretive movement. You could be the Queen of England and kind of wave to everyone. And then just find the connection with the hand that's behind you again. Inhale, release the twist, and come out all together. Take your arms out to the side, stretch your legs back. Out in front of you, that is. Stretch your legs out. Now, from here, if you created a little opening in the back and we were looking at our shoulder blades, you may want to take a downward facing dog. If downward dog isn't in your practice, you may prefer to come to child's pose or do some of the cat-cow variation we did in the beginning of class. But if you'd like to do a down dog, you're going to come to table, spread your fingers wide, take your time so you can really savor. I mean, this is like a familiar pose. It's like, oh yeah, down dog, no big deal, but we want to be absolutely wonderful tonight. So whatever pose or comfortable position you choose, take your time setting it up. Inhale into a back bend, exhale, lift those knees up and back. Look back at your feet, make sure they're roughly parallel. Relax your heels down, drape your head down. Take a few breaths here. If you're in down dog or child's pose, or you're in quadruped on all fours, notice the width of your upper back. So we want to kind of splay a little bit, the shoulder blades a little wide, so we can feel, we're not trying to yank them, but we want to feel the width of our upper back. Just notice that in whatever pose position you chose to do. And then when you're ready, come out, down dog, lower your knees down, come back to sitting when you're ready. We're going to come onto our belly for cobra, and we're going to add some neck turns just to see. And again, if the neck turns were the pits in the beginning of class and it still irritates you, you can skip the neck turns, but just again, trying to lubricate in the upper chest, the upper back, shoulders, maybe you can get a little more neck mobility. So come to lying on your belly. If you are very sensitive in the front of your hips and it feels like your hip bones dig into the mat, take a thin layer of blanket or towel underneath you. You could also have a layer, folded towel or blanket at the top of your mat to rest your forehead on. So that's just another possibility if you'd like to have that. So stretch out onto your belly. And for a moment, just rest with your forehead on your crisscross hands. And while you're there, I'm not going to be there, but just rest like that. Don't do what I'm doing. This isn't so comfortable. And while you're there, notice what's going on. So you're just resting here. So your legs are kind of hanging out. The heels might be splayed out. Notice how your hips feel. Just notice how your back feels. So you see how you feel when you're not using muscular effort in any way. Now set your arms up for cobra. So the classic position is palms down, elbows up. Fingers are a little bit spacious, so we have a nice handprint on our mat. If you have a forearm or wrist injury, you can take the cobra with the forearms down. Bring your chin in toward your chest. Place your head fully down. I'm keeping mine lifted so you can hear me. My voice will get a little muffled. So place your forehead down. Now pick up the right leg from the inner right thigh, lengthen and lift and lower it down, pressing the top of the foot gently down. And then do the same with the left leg. Lift it up from the inner left thigh, just a fraction, lengthen it long, stretch the leg long, place it down. Now tuck your pelvis slightly. Usually we tuck our pelvis when we're on our back, or so it might be weird here, but you're going to think of your pubic bone coming up toward your belly button. So your low back curve, again, is your normal low back curve. Then with that, hopefully you still have your forehead down. Now notice how alert your body is now as opposed to how it was when you first got here. Make sure your elbows aren't flopping out to the side. Keep your arms close to your side body. And as you inhale, press the tops of your feet down, scoot your pelvis forward, lift up just a little bit. So the back bend isn't sitting in your low back, nor are you yanking your upper back or head back. If you feel any tension in the low back, that means you're up a little too high for you at this particular moment. Now, if the head turns are okay for you, turn your head to your right and lower your left ear down. And notice when you did that, if the left shoulder kind of collapsed down when you turned your head right. And just rest here, keep your hands in place, your legs in place, but go soft. So you might notice that your butt cheeks get a little softer. You was maybe using some butt muscles in that pose. And now we're going to do Cobra on the second side. So when you're ready, inhale, press your thighs down, lift the neck, the upper chest, the head up. Make sure that there's no muscles from your arms. You could take your hands away and it wouldn't change much of anything. Lengthen the spine forward. Imagine that you're dragging your wrist back a little bit and slowly turn your head to your second side, to your left. Place your right ear fully down. Relax your arms and your legs. Notice the contrast between the activity that you just had in your body, and your body's in the same shape, but now it's just kind of hanging out. And let's do one more Cobra. So we did a more, an active, a restorative passive back bend before. So now we're doing an active one. And then place your forehead down again, lengthen your legs. And as you inhale, think about your heart lifting and coming forward for this last Cobra. Keep it small and subtle, and a lot of work in various places in the body. So the hips are working to keep a little tuck. So you want to make sure that your pubic bone doesn't sail up off the mat. We want to make sure our low back is curving a little bit, but not overly curving. If it feels comfortable for you, you can lift your legs up a fraction, reach the legs long. The glutes are working here. Feel the expansion in your upper back, the width of your upper back. And then when you're ready, lower everything down, place your forehead on a blanket or stack your forearms, place your forehead there, pick up your knees and just do a small, slow windshield wiper action from side to side. And then from here, we're gonna pretty much finish up with a seated twist. So roll over onto either side, bend your knees, use your top hand to lift yourself up, come to sitting, take a blanket under your hips if you need to. And for this twist, we're going to have our legs out in front of us. So sit nice and tall. And for a moment, just take your fingertips down by your hips in line with your hips, just so you can just notice how much or how little effort it takes just to sit tall. And then when you're ready, you're going to bend your right knee, bring the heel comfortably close to you. Make sure your left leg stays active. So hanging out leg, active leg. So gently reaching through the heel and keeping the toes alert. We're going to be twisting to your right side. So you can start with your left hand on your right leg and your right arm behind you and set the arms right from the start. Or you can just keep your legs here and use the core a little bit more to set the arms while you're twisting. So yogi's choice. Inhale here, lengthen the spine. And as you exhale, twist toward that bent right leg, left hand on the shin, right arm behind you. Make sure you're not leaning back. We want our shoulders roughly over the hips. So you play around with the position of the back arm. Don't look at your feet, but make sure the left ankle is gently flexed, the leg is reaching long, and that you can feel on your right foot, the bent leg foot, each toe down a little, some toes are going to feel more weighted than the other, the outer edge of your right foot and the inner edge of your right foot, making contact with the mat. You can stay in the twist you created right from the start. You might find, since we've done a number of twisting activities today, that maybe you have a little more opening available to you. So you would know that if you inhale again, and as you exhale, if you can easily take a slightly bigger twist, you'll know it. If you feel like, oh, I have to really force that, then you're not going to do that, because we don't want to force the twist. That would not be wonderful. What is wonderful here is the broad expanse of the upper back and our capacity to breathe into that back area and into the front. Make sure you're even on your sitting bones, that you're not listing over toward the side, toward either side, but the typical list would be toward the bent leg side. Take another breath or two here. And then when you're ready, Again, you can keep your arms close to your body for more support, but if it feels okay, bring your back arm up to your ear. Inhale, come out of the twist, slide your right leg out, paddle the legs a little bit. If you decided, you know, I was struggling to sit tall, add padding underneath you. And then when you're ready, bend your left knee, left foot down, flex your right ankle, not like crazy flex so that if your leg could cringe, it would be cringing, but an active leg as opposed to a hanging out leg. Sitting bones are even. You can come into the twist by setting your arms first. So on the other side, I came in with my arms up. So here I'll come in with my arms stationary. So your left arm is going to come behind you. Your right hand is going to be on your right shin to start. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, from the top third of your spine and your upper ribs and collarbones, take that twist. Now, when you twist, if you feel that the bent leg knee pops out, you can walk your bent foot a little further away from your straight leg, or you just got to use your muscle strength to keep that knee pointing up. Take a few breaths here. Hips are even. Right leg is active enough to be straight-ish, not floppy. Without looking, feel your left toes. Can you feel your left toes lightly touching your mat? Can you feel the big toe side of the foot and the inner toe side of the foot? If your knee is dripping out past the outer left ankle, you can press down a little bit or just put a little more step, like almost step down a little more firmly in a sense into the big toe and little toe side of the foot. Take one more breath here. When you're ready to release the twist, remember you can keep the arms low or send them up high, whatever feels better. As you inhale, slowly unwind. Stretch your left leg out. You can flop your legs around a little bit and then prepare for deep relaxation. So you can use your props to create something delicious. I might do one more thing on the back that you can do if you like. So have some padding underneath your head. Maybe you want to have a little sip of water, gather your adorable dog or cat with you, have a blanket to cover you, blanket under your head if you need it. Or if you're the one talking and you want your head a little higher so your voice projects. So just come to lying down again. Maybe have a little ah moment, and maybe you're just ready for Shavasana right here. We don't have time for a huge long Shavasana in an hour class, but if you're ready to go here, you're ready to go. And just allow yourself to relax, legs straight or bent, legs looped over, some props if you have them, some pillows. If you want to do one more activity here, you can certainly draw your bent legs into your chest. A lot of people like to end their practice that way. And then you can do some side to side movements if you like, but I prefer just circling my knees around, because the side to side, sometimes people tip over so much that it can just not be so great for your hips if you're really vigorously rocking from side to side. We don't want to do really anything vigorous before Shavasana. So if you are doing the movement, keep it small and slow. If you're circling your knees like I am, after you circle them around a few times, you can kind of stir the bowl with your knees the opposite direction. Make sure this feels okay on your sacrum and on the back of your hips. If it's sensitive there, having the legs into the chest, it maybe puts a little more weight there than you like. If you'd like to stretch your legs up to the ceiling and just rest them into the palms of your hands for a moment, if that feels okay, that might feel nice. You can bend your knees into happy baby and let your knees rest in the cupped palms of your hands. And then when you're ready, release any action that you created. Bring your feet down, stretch out your legs. And find that wonderful pose that is Shavasana. Feel how the solidity of Your floor supports your back. Feel how your mat and whatever you have between your back and the floor, maybe a carpet, feel how that cushions your back. Let your head be heavy. Notice how the floor, the mat, maybe the rug supports the weight of your skull. Notice how the softness under your head cradles your skull. Close your eyes like soft curtains. Soften your jaw. Let go of your unspoken words. Invite your sturdy, strong, and broad upper back to give up all the stuff that you carry, physical, emotional, mental, all the stuff weighting down on your back during the day. Let that go, especially now as we get into the evening and bedtime will be here soon. Get a little soft in your upper back. Maybe take a cleansing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth and send the intention of ease to your upper back. Let your rib cage be heavy. Your belly soft. Invite the thighs to soften and spread, to take up more room. Invite the tissues that wrap around the lower legs to also soften up. Relax your feet. Our wonderful feet take us so many places. Our wonderful heart beats for us. Our wonderful brains create amazing ideas and thoughts. All the wonderfulness encompassed in your body and your mind. Take that with you as you surrender to a few moments of stillness and quiet. If any thoughts float up to the surface of your mind and interfere with your relaxation, just kind of whisper them away or blow them away with a puff of air, maintaining your stillness, maintaining your celebration of stillness. Know that it is within your power to take Shavasana even without doing a yoga practice beforehand. You can give yourself the gift of Shavasana every day. And you can take a longer Shavasana now that continues beyond the time we have together, or maybe take another little mini Shavasana before you go to bed. But for now, bring your awareness back into your toes and your fingertips. Maybe move them around a little bit. Back into your legs and your arms. And when you're ready, if you're ready, bend your knees, place your feet lightly on your sticky mat. And then ease over to either side. Rest on your side for at least 2 or 3 breaths. And then if you like, you can conclude your practice sitting up, but you of course can stay lying down. And since I can't see most of you, you could be in any position you like. You could be on your, lying on your couch, whatever works. Wherever you are, either join your hands literally or just imagine that your hands are touching. If you're lying in or sitting in a way that you don't want to join them, find the sensation, the idea of the warmth of your hands joining together. Thank your body for all it does for you all day long, what it did for you in your yoga practice, what it does for you every day in its wonderfulness. We again are these wonderful, breathing, living beings. Thank you so much for joining our yoga class this evening. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste.